Welcome to our insightful and impressive story today. Millionaire kicked his ex-wife out of the house after 15 years of marriage to bring his lover home in regret. What happens when a husband chooses his pregnant mistress over his wife? You won't believe the shocking twist that leaves him speechless months later. From unexpected pregnancy announcements to dramatic family feuds, this jaw-dropping story will leave you on the edge of your seat. Watch till the end to find out the surprising consequences of his actions. Inform us if you are enthusiastic about this narrative. If you are, press 1 if you found the video to be enjoyable. If this is not the case, press 0. Your comments are a great source of motivation for me to collect more stories that are uplifting and meaningful.
Belief. Just hours ago, they had been planning their 15th anniversary celebration. Now, her world was crumbling around her. "Nathan, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "What's going on? Talk to me." But Nathan was beyond reason. He stormed back into the house, emerging moments later with an armful of Olivia's clothes. He threw them onto the growing pile on the driveway. 15 years, Olivia," he shouted. 15 years of trying, and nothing. You can't give me the one thing I need, an heir to my empire." Olivia flinched as if she'd been slapped. They had been trying to conceive for years, enduring countless treatments and heartbreaks. Each failure had been a knife in her heart, but she'd always believed Nathan understood. As Nathan continued his tirade, Olivia's mind flashed back to happier times. Their wedding day, Nathan's eyes full of love as he promised to stand by her side forever. Their first anniversary, spent on a secluded beach, dreaming of the family they would build together. The day Nathan's first real estate deal went through, and how they danced in their tiny apartment, full of hope for the future. Those memories now seemed like scenes from someone else's life. "Nathan, stop!" Olivia cried, reaching for him. "We can work this out. We always have." Nathan jerked away from her touch. "There's nothing to work out. It's over, Olivia." Just then, the crunch of tires on gravel cut through the storm's din. A sleek sports car pulled up, and out stepped Amber, Nathan's young assistant. Olivia's heart sank as she saw the triumphant gleam in the other woman's eye. "Nathan, baby," Amber called out, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Is everything okay? I got worried when you didn't show up for our dinner." Olivia's world tilted on its axis. "Dinner?" she whispered, looking between Nathan and Amber. "What's going on?" Nathan's face hardened. "Amber's pregnant, Olivia. She's giving me what you never could." The words hit Olivia like a physical blow. She staggered back, her mind reeling. "You and her? How long?" "Long enough," Nathan sneered. "Now get out. You're no longer welcome in this house." Amber sauntered up, wrapping herself around Nathan. Her hand rested possessively on her still flat stomach. "Don't worry, Olivia. I'll take good care of him and our baby." Olivia felt something inside her shatter. The love she'd believed in, the life she'd built, it had all been a lie. With shaking hands, she gathered what she could of her rain-soaked belongings. "You'll regret this, Nathan," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someday, you'll realize what you've thrown away." Nathan's only response was to turn his back, leading Amber into the warmth of the house, the home that had been Olivia's just moments ago. Left alone in the storm, Olivia looked at the mansion she'd called home for the past decade. The windows glowed with warm light, a stark contrast to the cold, wet darkness surrounding her. For a moment, she was tempted to beg, to plead for another chance. But a new feeling was rising within her, a mix of anger, determination, and something else she couldn't quite name. With a deep breath, Olivia turned away from her old life. She had no idea where she would go or what she would do, but she knew she couldn't stay here, clinging to the shattered remains of her marriage. As she walked away, her designer heels sinking into the muddy driveway, Olivia placed a hand on her stomach. A wave of nausea washed over her from stress or something else, she wasn't sure. But in that moment, a tiny spark of hope flickered to life. Whatever happened next, Olivia knew one thing for certain: her life would never be the same. Nathan Caldwell sat in his plush office, staring at the city skyline. His empire stretched before him, but his mind was elsewhere, lost in memories of a past he tried so hard to forget. He was 8 again, sitting in the back seat of his parents' car. They were laughing, discussing plans for his upcoming birthday. Then, screeching tires. A blinding light. Silence. Nathan blinked, forcing himself back to the present. That night had changed everything. One moment, he was a happy kid with loving parents. The next, he was alone, thrust into the cold world of the St. Michael's orphanage. Life at the orphanage was tough. Nathan learned quickly that vulnerability was a weakness others would exploit. He built walls around his heart, vowing never to let anyone close enough to hurt him again. As he grew older, Nathan's determination hardened. He excelled in school, earning a scholarship to a prestigious university. There, he discovered his talent for real estate and his hunger for success. Fresh out of college, Nathan landed an entry-level job at a small real estate firm. He worked tirelessly, often sleeping at his desk. His ambition caught the eye of the firm's owner, who became a mentor of sorts. It was during this time that Nathan made his first ethically questionable decision. A family was struggling to make payments on their home. Instead of working with them, Nathan saw an opportunity. He convinced his boss to foreclose quickly, then flipped the property for a significant profit. The guilt gnawed at him, but the thrill of success was intoxicating. Nathan pushed the family's faces from his mind, focusing instead on his rising bank balance. As Nathan climbed the corporate ladder, he met Marcus Johnson, a young lawyer with a sharp mind and unwavering moral compass. Despite their differences, the two became friends. Marcus was often the voice of reason, trying to temper Nathan's more ruthless impulses. "Nathan, we can't go through with this deal," Marcus argued one day, waving a stack of papers. "These people will lose everything." Nathan's jaw clenched. "It's just business, Marcus. If we don't do it, someone else will." Marcus shook his head. "That doesn't make it right." But Nathan was already walking away, deaf to his friend's protests. He had an empire to build, and he wouldn't let anyone or anything stand in his way. Years passed, and Nathan's success grew. He started his own company, Caldwell Developments, and quickly made a name for himself in the cutthroat world of New York real estate. His methods weren't always ethical, but they were effective. Nathan had a knack for finding loopholes, for pressuring the right people, for making problems disappear. And with each success, the walls around his heart grew higher. On the surface, Nathan had it all: money, power, respect. But in quiet moments, when the city slept and he was alone with his thoughts, he felt the emptiness gnawing at him. It was during one of these moments that he met Olivia. She was different from the women he usually encountered in his world. Kind, genuine, with a warmth that seemed to melt his carefully constructed defenses. For a while, Nathan allowed himself to hope. Maybe with Olivia, he could have the family he'd lost all those years ago. Maybe he could finally fill the void inside him. But as the years passed and Olivia failed to give him a child, old fears resurfaced. The idea of that deeper connection, of being truly vulnerable, terrified him. It was easier to retreat behind his walls, to focus on his empire. Now, sitting in his office, Nathan looked at the photo on his desk. It was from his wedding day, he and Olivia smiling at the camera. He remembered the hope he'd felt that day, the promise of a different kind of life. With a swift motion, he knocked the frame face down. He'd made his choice. His empire was all that mattered now. He'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let anything or anyone threaten it. As he turned back to the window, Nathan made a silent vow. He would never allow himself to be vulnerable again. No matter the cost. The intercom buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. "Mr. Caldwell? Your 2 o'clock is here." Nathan straightened his tie, his face settling into its usual mask of confident indifference. It was time to get back to business. After all, empires don't build themselves. Nathan Caldwell leaned back in his chair, swirling a glass of expensive whiskey. Across from him, Amber lounged on the couch, her hand resting on her barely visible baby bump. "We should start looking at schools," Amber said, scrolling through her phone. "Only the best for our little heir." Nathan nodded, a smug smile playing on his lips. "Of course. Nothing but the finest for my child." As they discussed their lavish plans for the future, Nathan felt a surge of satisfaction. This was what he'd always wanted: the heir to his empire, someone to carry on his legacy. With Amber, everything seemed to be falling into place. "We should celebrate," Nathan declared, standing up. "How about dinner at Le Blanc tonight?" Amber's eyes lit up. "Perfect. I'll wear that new dress you bought me." As Nathan and Amber reveled in their luxury, across the city, Olivia Caldwell was facing a very different reality. The harsh fluorescent lights of the women's shelter flickered as Olivia stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The thin mattress did little to cushion her from the hard floor, and the snores and quiet sobs of the other women filled the air. How had she ended up here? Just days ago, she'd been living in a mansion, planning charity galas. Now, she was homeless, penniless, and alone. Olivia's hand drifted to her stomach, a habit she'd developed over the past few days. Something felt different, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. The next morning, after a meager breakfast at the shelter, Olivia made her way to a free clinic. Her suspicions were confirmed: she was pregnant. As the doctor explained her options, Olivia's mind raced. Should she tell Nathan? Would he take her back? Or would he accuse her of trying to trap him? After a sleepless night weighing her options, Olivia made a decision. She wouldn't tell Nathan. This baby was hers, and she would find a way to provide for it on her own. With renewed determination, Olivia hit the streets, looking for work. But with no recent job experience and unwilling to use Nathan's name as a reference, she faced rejection after rejection. "I'm sorry," one manager said, not unkindly. "But we need someone with more experience." Olivia nodded, fighting back tears. As she left the building, she overheard two women talking. "Did you hear? Le Blanc is hiring servers. The pay's not great, but the tips are good." Hope flared in Olivia's chest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Meanwhile, Nathan was throwing himself into his work with renewed vigor. He strutted through the office, barking orders and making demands. "I want that deal closed by Friday," he snapped at a trembling intern. "No excuses." Marcus watched from his office, a frown creasing his forehead. "You're pushing them too hard, Nathan," he warned. Nathan scoffed. "This is business, Marcus. If they can't handle it, they don't belong here." As the days passed, Nathan's arrogance grew. He was untouchable, unstoppable. Nothing could stand in his way. Olivia, on the other hand, was learning humility. After a grueling interview process, she landed the job at Le Blanc. The work was hard, the hours long, but Olivia threw herself into it with everything she had. "You're doing great," Sarah, the head chef, told her after a particularly busy shift. "Keep it up." Olivia smiled, feeling a small spark of pride. She could do this. She would do this for herself and her baby. Weeks passed. Olivia's morning sickness was brutal, but she pushed through, determined to keep her job. She was just starting to feel like she might be able to handle this new life when everything changed again. It was a busy Saturday night at Le Blanc. Olivia was rushing between tables when she heard a familiar laugh. Her heart stopped. There, at a corner table, sat Nathan and Amber. They were laughing, clinking champagne glasses, looking like the perfect couple. Olivia froze, her tray wobbling dangerously. The room started to spin. She couldn't breathe. "Olivia?" Sarah's voice seemed to come from far away. "Are you okay?" Olivia managed a small shake of her head before her knees buckled. Sarah caught her just before she hit the ground. "Let's get you to the back," Sarah said, leading her away from the dining room. As they passed Nathan's table, Olivia held her breath. But Nathan and Amber were too engrossed in each other to notice the commotion. In the kitchen, Olivia sank onto a chair, her hands shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Sarah patted her shoulder. "Don't worry about it. Are you feeling sick?" "The flu's been going around." Olivia nodded, grateful for the excuse. As she sat there, trying to calm her racing heart, a strange feeling washed over her. Seeing Nathan with Amber had hurt, yes. But it had also ignited something inside her, a fierce determination. She would survive this. She would thrive. And she would do it all without Nathan Caldwell. Nathan Caldwell paced in his office, phone pressed to his ear. "Listen, Johnson, I need those environmental reports changed. Make the contamination levels look lower." But Mr. Caldwell, the voice on the other end, protested, "That's illegal. If we're caught, dash." "We won't be caught," Nathan snapped. "Just do it. This deal is worth millions." He hung up, a triumphant smile spreading across his face. The Riverside Development Project was his ticket to the big leagues. A few tweaked numbers were a small price to pay. Across town, Olivia struggled through another shift at Le Blanc. Her growing belly made maneuvering between tables increasingly difficult. "Watch it," a customer snapped as Olivia narrowly avoided spilling water on him. "I'm so sorry," Olivia mumbled, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. In the kitchen, she overheard two co-workers whispering. How much longer is Sarah going to keep her on? She can barely carry a tray. Olivia's hands shook as she loaded her next order. She needed this job. She couldn't lose it now. Back at Caldwell Developments, Nathan was in high spirits. The Riverside deal was almost closed. He strode into the conference room where potential investors waited. "Gentlemen," he announced, "I have great news. The environmental reports came back clean. Riverside is ready for development." As Nathan laid out his plans, painting pictures of luxury condos and high-end retail spaces, Marcus watched from the corner, his brow furrowed. After the meeting, Marcus cornered Nathan in his office. "Nathan, we need to talk about Riverside." Nathan's smile faded. "What about it?" "I've seen the original reports," Marcus said quietly. "I know what you did." Nathan's jaw clenched. "It's just business, Marcus. No one's getting hurt." "No one's getting hurt?" Marcus's voice rose. "What about the families who will be living on contaminated land? What about the workers who will be exposed to those chemicals?" "You're overreacting," Nathan scoffed. "The levels are barely above legal limits. That doesn't make it right." Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. "Nathan, this isn't you. What happened to the guy who wanted to make a difference? Nathan's eyes hardened. That guy grew up. This is the real world, Marcus. If you can't handle it, maybe you don't belong here. The two men glared at each other, years of friendship straining under the weight of Nathan's ambition. Meanwhile, Olivia faced her own battle at Le Blanc. As she struggled to carry a heavy tray, she overheard the manager talking to Sarah. We can't keep her on much longer, Sarah. She's becoming a liability. Olivia's heart sank. But then, a strange calm washed over her. She'd faced worse. She could handle this. Squaring her shoulders, Olivia approached them. Excuse me, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. I couldn't help overhearing. I understand your concerns, but I assure you, I can do this job. The manager looked skeptical. Miss Caldwell, we appreciate your effort, but dash. Give me 2 weeks, Olivia interrupted. If I can't keep up, I'll resign. No severance needed. Sarah and the manager exchanged glances. Finally, Sarah nodded. 2 weeks. As Olivia walked away, she felt a newfound strength coursing through her. She'd fought for herself, something she'd never done before. That evening, as Nathan celebrated the Riverside deal with Amber, his phone buzzed. It was Marcus. Nathan, I can't be part of this anymore. I'm resigning. Nathan stared at the phone, a mix of anger and something like regret washing over him. But he pushed it down. He'd come too far to start having doubts now. Your loss, he muttered, tossing the phone aside. Amber watched him curiously. Everything okay, baby? Nathan forced a smile. Just fine. Marcus is leaving the company, that's all. Amber's eyes lit up. Does that mean I can take his office? It has a much better view than mine. Nathan nodded absently, his mind already moving on to the next deal, the next conquest. Later that night, as Nathan slept, Amber crept into his home office. She'd noticed him acting strange lately, always locking drawers, password-protecting files. Her eyes landed on a folder labeled Riverside Confidential. Glancing over her shoulder, she opened it. As she read, her eyes widened. This was big. This could change everything. A slow smile spread across Amber's face. Nathan Caldwell's empire of sand was about to come crashing down, and she'd be there to pick up the pieces. Amber sauntered into Nathan's office, a coy smile on her face. Nathan, darling, we need to talk about my new position in the company. Nathan looked up from his computer, confusion etched on his face. New position? What are you talking about? Amber's smile turned predatory. Well, with Marcus gone, I think it's time I took on more responsibility. After all, I am carrying your heir. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Amber, you're not qualified for Marcus's job. Oh, I think you'll find I'm qualified for a lot of things, Amber purred, sliding a folder across his desk. Especially when I know so much about Riverside. Nathan's face paled as he opened the folder. Inside were copies of the original environmental reports. Where did you get these? Amber shrugged. Does it matter? What matters is what I could do with them. As the implications sank in, Nathan felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. Amber had him cornered. Meanwhile, at Le Blanc, Olivia was in the middle of another grueling shift. As she rushed to deliver an order, a wave of nausea hit her. She stumbled, nearly dropping her tray. Strong hands steadied her. Whoa there, careful, Sarah's voice came from behind her. Olivia turned, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I don't know what came over me. Sarah's eyes narrowed, taking in Olivia's pale face and the way her hand unconsciously rested on her stomach. "Come with me," she said, leading Olivia to the break room. Once inside, Sarah crossed her arms. "How far along are you?" Olivia's eyes widened. What?" "The pregnancy," Sarah said softly. "How far along?" Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes. "About 3 months," she whispered. To Olivia's surprise, Sarah's face softened. "Does the father know?" Olivia shook her head, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. She told Sarah everything about Nathan, about being kicked out, about her determination to make it on her own. When she finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, she did something that shocked Olivia. She hugged her. "Listen to me," Sarah said fiercely. "You're not alone in this. I've got your back." Olivia pulled back, stunned. "But, why?" Sarah's eyes grew distant. "Because 15 years ago, I was you." As Sarah shared her own story of being abandoned while pregnant, Olivia felt a connection forming between them. For the first time since that rainy night, she didn't feel alone. Across town, Nathan was grappling with his own problems. Amber's subtle threats were becoming more frequent, her demands more outrageous. "I think I should sit in on the board meeting tomorrow," Amber announced one evening. Nathan's patience snapped. "Enough, Amber. You're not qualified for this. Your job is to be my assistant and the mother of my child. Nothing more." Amber's eyes flashed dangerously. "Careful, Nathan. You wouldn't want certain documents finding their way to the wrong hands, would you?" As Amber stormed out, Nathan slumped in his chair. How had he let things get so out of control? The next evening, Nathan decided to clear his head with dinner at Le Blanc. As he walked in, he failed to notice Olivia ducking behind the bar, her heart pounding. "Table for one," he told the hostess. As Nathan was led to his table, Olivia peered around the corner, her breath caught in her throat. She watched as he sat down, looking tired and stressed. For a moment, Olivia felt a pang of sympathy. Then she remembered the night he'd thrown her out, and her resolve hardened. Sarah appeared at her side. "You okay?" Olivia nodded, straightening up. "I am. He doesn't control my life anymore." Sarah squeezed her shoulder. "That's my girl. Now, let's get through this shift. I've got a killer chocolate cake recipe to teach you after." As Olivia moved through the restaurant, carefully avoiding Nathan's table, she felt a newfound confidence. She was stronger than she'd ever been, and she wasn't alone. Nathan, oblivious to Olivia's presence, stared at his menu without really seeing it. His empire was built on sand, and Amber held the power to make it all crumble. He needed a plan, and fast. As the evening wore on, Nathan and Olivia's paths nearly crossed several times. Each near miss sent Olivia's heart racing, but she managed to stay out of sight. Finally, Nathan left, none the wiser to Olivia's presence. As the door closed behind him, Olivia let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Sarah appeared at her side, a knowing look in her eyes. "You did good, kid. Now, about that chocolate cake." As Olivia followed Sarah to the kitchen, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could build a new life for herself and her baby. A life free from Nathan Caldwell's shadow. Nathan Caldwell straightened his tie as he entered Le Blanc. This dinner meeting could make or break his latest deal. He needed to be on top of his game. "Mr. Caldwell, your guests are already seated," the hostess said, leading him to a corner table. As Nathan approached, his eyes scanned the room, taking in the elegant decor and the bustling waitstaff. Suddenly, he froze. There, across the room, was a familiar face. Olivia. For a moment, Nathan thought he was seeing things. But no, it was definitely her. His ex-wife was weaving between tables, carrying a tray of drinks. And she was unmistakably pregnant. Nathan's mind reeled. Olivia was here. Working as a waitress? And pregnant? How was this possible? Mr. Caldwell? One of his dinner guests stood, extending a hand. Is everything all right? Nathan snapped back to reality, forcing a smile. Yes, of course. Shall we begin? As the meeting progressed, Nathan found it increasingly difficult to concentrate. His eyes kept drifting to Olivia, watching as she efficiently moved through the restaurant. Olivia, for her part, had noticed Nathan the moment he walked in. Her heart had nearly stopped, but she forced herself to keep working. She wouldn't let him see how much his presence affected her. As the evening wore on, Nathan's distraction became more apparent. He fumbled through explanations, lost track of questions, and twice nearly knocked over his water glass. Mr. Caldwell, perhaps we should reschedule, one of the investors suggested, concern evident in his voice. Nathan opened his mouth to respond when a new voice cut in. Nathan, darling. What a surprise. Amber sauntered up to the table, her pregnancy now clearly visible. She placed a possessive hand on Nathan's shoulder. I was just meeting some friends for dinner and saw you here. Nathan stiffened under her touch. Amber, this isn't a good time. I'm in a meeting. Amber's eyes narrowed slightly, but her smile remained fixed. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. As Amber chatted with the investors, Nathan's gaze drifted back to Olivia. To his shock, she was approaching their table. Good evening, Olivia said, her voice steady. Can I get you anything else? For a moment, the table fell silent. Nathan stared at Olivia, a mix of emotions playing across his face. Shock, guilt, and something that might have been regret. Amber recovered first. Well, if it isn't the ex-Mrs. Caldwell. Waiting tables now, are we? How quaint. Olivia's chin lifted slightly. I prefer to think of it as honest work, Mrs. Caldwell. Now, can I get you anything, or are you just here to cause a scene? Amber's face flushed with anger, but before she could respond, one of the investors spoke up. I'll have another scotch, please. Olivia nodded, ignoring Nathan's attempt to catch her eye. Right away, sir. As Olivia walked away, Nathan felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride at Olivia's composure, shame at his own actions, and a growing unease about the choices he'd made. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. The investors left, clearly unimpressed with Nathan's distracted performance. Amber stormed out after a heated whispered argument. Finally, Nathan found himself alone at the table, watching as Olivia continued her shift. As the restaurant began to empty, Nathan approached Olivia at the bar. Olivia, can we talk? Olivia turned, her face impassive. I'm working, Nathan. Some of us have to earn a living. Please, Nathan said, his voice low. Just 5 minutes. Olivia sighed. My shift ends in 10 minutes. I'll meet you outside. Those 10 minutes felt like an eternity to Nathan. When Olivia finally emerged, he barely recognized her. Gone was the polished socialite. In her place stood a woman who radiated quiet strength. Why didn't you tell me? Nathan blurted out, gesturing to her stomach. Olivia's hand instinctively went to her belly. Would it have made a difference? Nathan opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't have an answer. That's what I thought, Olivia said quietly. Goodbye, Nathan. As Olivia walked away, Nathan felt as if his carefully constructed world was crumbling around him. Unbeknownst to either of them, Amber watched from her car across the street. Her face contorted with rage as she saw Nathan watching Olivia leave. "You'll regret this, Nathan Caldwell," she hissed, pulling out her phone. "If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me." As Amber dialed a number, her finger hovering over a folder labeled Riverside Evidence, Nathan stood alone on the sidewalk, the weight of his choices finally catching up to him. Nathan Caldwell's phone wouldn't stop ringing. As he rushed into his office, his assistant intercepted him, her face pale. "Mr. Caldwell, there's a reporter from the New York Times on line 1. They're asking about Riverside." Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. He snatched the phone. "Caldwell speaking. Mr. Caldwell, we've received some interesting documents about the Riverside project. Care to comment on the altered environmental reports?" Nathan's mind raced. How had they found out? Then it hit him. Amber. "No comment," he growled, slamming down the phone. Over the next few hours, Nathan's world unraveled. More reporters called. Investors demanded explanations. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. Nathan paced his office, barking orders into his phone. "I don't care what it costs. Shut this down now." But it was too late. By afternoon, the story had broken. Caldwell Developments accused of environmental cover-up, the headline screamed. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from Amber, "Should have treated me better." This is just the beginning. As Nathan fought to contain the damage, across town, Olivia faced her own crisis. She was in the middle of a shift at LeBlanc when a sharp pain hit her abdomen. She gasped, dropping the tray she was carrying. Sarah was at her side in an instant. "Olivia? What's wrong?" "The baby," Olivia whispered, her face contorted in pain. "Something's wrong with the baby." Sarah didn't hesitate. "I'm calling an ambulance." At the hospital, doctors rushed Olivia into emergency care. Sarah paced the waiting room, feeling helpless. Meanwhile, Nathan was in the middle of a heated board meeting when his phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, ready to ignore another reporter, but the name made him pause. It was from LeBlanc. "Mr. Caldwell, this is Sarah from LeBlanc. Olivia's been taken to Metro General. There are complications with her pregnancy." Nathan felt the world tilt. Olivia. The baby. His baby. "I have to go," he muttered, standing abruptly. "Nathan, we're not finished here," one of the board members protested. But Nathan was already out the door. As he sped to the hospital, Nathan's mind was in chaos. His carefully constructed world was crumbling. The empire he'd sacrificed everything for was teetering on the brink of collapse. And now, Olivia and their child were in danger. For the first time in years, Nathan felt the full weight of his choices. The lies, the manipulations, the people he'd stepped on to get to the top. What had it all been for? At the hospital, Nathan burst through the emergency room doors. "Olivia Caldwell," he gasped to the receptionist. "Where is she?" "Are you family?" the nurse asked, eyeing him suspiciously. Nathan hesitated. What was he to Olivia now? I'm the baby's father." The nurse pointed him to a waiting area. There, he found Sarah, who looked surprised to see him. "How is she?" Nathan demanded. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Why do you care? You threw her out, remember?" Nathan flinched at the accusation. "Please," he said softly. "I need to know." Sarah sighed. "They're still running tests. It might be preeclampsia. It's serious, Nathan. Nathan sank into a chair, his head in his hands. How had everything gone so wrong? Hours passed. Nathan's phone buzzed constantly, but he ignored it. Nothing mattered except the news about Olivia and the baby. Finally, a doctor approached. Mr. Caldwell? Nathan stood, his heart pounding. Yes? How are they? We've stabilized Olivia's condition, the doctor said. But she'll need to remain hospitalized for the rest of her pregnancy. The next few weeks are critical. Nathan nodded, relief washing over him. Can I see her? The doctor hesitated. She's asking for Sarah. Nathan felt a pang of hurt, but he nodded. He had no right to expect anything from Olivia. As Sarah disappeared into Olivia's room, Nathan slumped back in his chair. His phone buzzed again. A text from his assistant, board voting to suspend you pending investigation. Please respond ASAP. Nathan stared at the message, feeling oddly detached. Just days ago, this would have sent him into a panic. Now, it seemed trivial compared to what was happening in that hospital room. For the first time in years, Nathan Caldwell faced the emptiness of the life he'd built. His empire was crumbling, and he might lose the only things that truly mattered: Olivia and their child. As he sat in that sterile waiting room, Nathan made a silent vow. If given the chance, he would make things right. Not for his empire, but for his family. Nathan sat in his office, staring at the clock. In 30 minutes, he had a crucial board meeting that could determine the fate of his company. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages from lawyers, PR teams, and panicked executives. But his mind was elsewhere. At the hospital, with Olivia. A knock on the door jolted him from his thoughts. His assistant poked her head in. Mr. Caldwell, the board is gathering. They're expecting you in the conference room. Nathan nodded absently. He stood, straightening his tie, when his phone buzzed again. It was Sarah. Olivia's asking for you, the message read. Without a second thought, Nathan grabbed his coat. Cancel the meeting, he told his shocked assistant as he rushed past her. As he sped to the hospital, Nathan's phone exploded with calls and messages. He ignored them all. At the hospital, Nathan found Sarah outside Olivia's room. She's having a rough day, Sarah warned. Be gentle. Nathan entered the room quietly. Olivia lay in the bed, looking pale and tired. When she saw him, her eyes widened in surprise. Nathan? What are you doing here? You asked for me, he said softly. Olivia shook her head. I asked Sarah to keep you updated. I didn't expect you to come. An awkward silence fell between them. Nathan stepped closer to the bed. Olivia, I'm so sorry. For everything. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Do you have any idea what you put me through? I lost everything, Nathan. My home, my security, my dignity. I know, Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. I was wrong. So wrong. I let greed and ambition blind me to what really mattered. Olivia steadied his face. And what matters now, Nathan? You, he said without hesitation. You and our baby. Nothing else. Olivia's hand instinctively went to her stomach. It's not that simple, Nathan. You can't just waltz back in and expect everything to be okay. I know, Nathan nodded. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want a chance to make things right. To be there for you and our child. As they talked, Nathan's phone buzzed continuously. He ignored it. Aren't you going to get that? Olivia asked. Nathan shook his head. Nothing is more important than this conversation. For the first time, Olivia saw a glimmer of the man she had fallen in love with years ago. But she was hesitant to trust again. Nathan, I appreciate you being here. But I need time. This is all too much, too fast. Nathan nodded, understanding. I'll be here, Olivia. Whatever you need. As they talked, neither was aware of the storm brewing outside. Across town, Amber sat in a cafe, a satisfied smirk on her face as she hit send on an email. Attached were all the documents she had gathered on Nathan's shady deals over the years. Within hours, the story exploded. Every major news outlet was running exposes on Caldwell Development's illegal practices. Nathan's empire was crumbling in real time, and he was oblivious to it all, sitting by Olivia's bedside. It wasn't until Marcus burst into the hospital room that reality came crashing down. Nathan, Marcus panted, out of breath. We have a problem. A big one. Nathan looked up, startled. Marcus? What are you doing here? Marcus's face was grim. Amber leaked everything, Nathan. All the files, all the evidence. It's all over the news. Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. He glanced at Olivia, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. How bad is it? Nathan asked quietly. Marcus shook his head. It's bad, Nathan. The SEC is involved. There's talk of criminal charges. Nathan sank into a chair, his head in his hands. Everything he had built, everything he had sacrificed for, was gone. Nathan? Olivia's voice was soft. What's going on? Nathan looked up at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resolve. My company is falling apart, Olivia. Everything I've worked for, it's over. What are you going to do? She asked. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took Olivia's hand. I'm going to stay right here. If you'll let me. Olivia's eyes widened in surprise. But your company is just a company, Nathan finished. I've lost sight of what's truly important for too long. I won't make that mistake again. As Nathan sat there, holding Olivia's hand, he felt a strange sense of peace. His empire was in ruins, his reputation destroyed. But for the first time in years, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. Marcus watched the scene unfold, a mix of emotions on his face. Nathan, the board is demanding an emergency meeting. They're voting to remove you as CEO. Nathan nodded, not taking his eyes off Olivia. Tell them I resign. Effective immediately. As Marcus left to deliver the message, Nathan turned back to Olivia. I know I have a lot to make up for. But if you'll give me a chance, I want to be here. For you, for our baby. For our family. Olivia, torn between caution and hope, squeezed Nathan's hand. One day at a time, Nathan. One day at a time. The following weeks were a whirlwind for Nathan Caldwell. His empire crumbled around him as investigations into Caldwell developments intensified. Assets were frozen, partnerships dissolved, and his once sterling reputation lay in tatters. Amber disappeared as quickly as she had entered his life, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a note that simply read, "You should have treated me better." Despite the chaos, Nathan remained by Olivia's side at the hospital. He slept in an uncomfortable chair, ate from vending machines, and fielded calls from lawyers in hushed tones in the hallway. Olivia watched this transformation with a mixture of caution and growing respect. The arrogant, ruthless businessman was gone, replaced by a man who seemed genuinely committed to making amends. One morning, as Nathan returned from a coffee run, he found Olivia's room in a flurry of activity. Nurses rushed around, and Olivia's face was contorted in pain. "What's happening?" Nathan asked, his heart racing. A nurse turned to him. "She's gone into labor. It's too early. We're preparing for an emergency C-section." Nathan felt the world tilt. This was too soon. The baby wasn't due for another month. As they wheeled Olivia towards the operating room, she reached out and grabbed Nathan's hand. "Don't leave me," she whispered, fear evident in her eyes. "Never again," Nathan promised, squeezing her hand. In the operating room, Nathan stood by Olivia's side, trying to offer comfort as the doctors worked. The beeping of machines and the urgent voices of medical staff filled the air. As the situation intensified, Nathan felt a wave of memory wash over him. Suddenly, he was 8 years old again, sitting in the back of his parents' car. The screeching of tires, the sound of breaking glass, the terrifying silence that followed. Nathan shook his head, forcing himself back to the present. He couldn't fall apart now. Olivia needed him. "Stay with me, Olivia," he urged, his voice thick with emotion. "You're the strongest person I know. You can do this." Olivia's grip on his hand tightened as another contraction hit. "I'm scared, Nathan," she admitted. "I know," he said softly. "But I'm right here. We're in this together." As the doctors worked, Nathan felt a surge of protectiveness he'd never experienced before. This was his family. He'd already failed them once, he wouldn't do it again. Finally, after what seemed like hours, a tiny cry filled the room. Nathan's heart leapt. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, holding up a small, wrinkled bundle. But the joy was short-lived. The baby's cries were weak, and he was quickly whisked away to a waiting incubator. "What's wrong?" Olivia asked, panic in her voice. "Why isn't he with me?" The doctor's face was grim. "He's having trouble breathing. We need to get him to the NICU immediately." As they rushed the baby out, Nathan felt torn. He wanted to follow his son, but he couldn't leave Olivia. "Go," Olivia said, sensing his dilemma. "Go with our baby. Make sure he's okay." Nathan nodded, pressing a quick kiss to Olivia's forehead before following the medical team. In the NICU, Nathan watched helplessly as doctors and nurses worked on his tiny son. The baby looked so fragile, hooked up to machines that dwarfed his small body. As he stood there, Nathan felt something break inside him. All the walls he'd built, all the emotional distance he'd maintained over the years, crumbled in the face of this tiny, fighting life. Tears streamed down his face as he placed a hand on the incubator. "Hey, little guy," he whispered. "I'm your dad. I know I messed up pretty bad before you got here, but I promise I'm going to do better. You just need to keep fighting, okay?" Hours passed. Nathan shuttled between the NICU and Olivia's room, providing updates and support. Despite her own recovery, Olivia insisted on being wheeled to the NICU as soon as she was able. When she saw their son for the first time, Olivia broke down. "He's so small," she sobbed. Nathan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "But he's strong," he assured her. "Just like his mom." As they watched their son fight for his life, Nathan and Olivia found themselves growing closer. The barriers between them slowly began to crumble, replaced by a shared concern for their child. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, their son grew stronger. He was taken off the ventilator, then moved out of the incubator. Finally, Olivia was able to hold him for the first time. As Nathan watched Olivia cradle their son, he felt a profound sense of peace. His empire was gone, his reputation in ruins, but none of that mattered. Everything that truly mattered was right here in this room. What should we name him? Olivia asked, looking up at Nathan. Nathan thought for a moment. How about Michael? After my father. Olivia smiled. Michael Caldwell. I like it. As they sat together, a family at last, Nathan knew that this was not an ending, but a beginning. He had a long way to go to make up for his past mistakes, but for the first time in years, he felt truly alive. With Olivia and Michael by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Nathan Caldwell stood before the judge, his lawyer by his side. The courtroom was packed with reporters, eager to witness the fall of one of New York's most prominent businessmen. Mr. Caldwell, given your cooperation with the investigation and your lack of prior criminal record, the court is inclined to accept the plea deal, the judge announced. You will serve no jail time, but you'll be required to complete 2,000 hours of community service and pay a substantial fine. Do you accept these terms? Nathan nodded solemnly. I do, Your Honor. As he left the courthouse, Nathan was bombarded by reporters. He ignored their questions, his mind already on his next destination, the hospital where Olivia and Michael were waiting. At the hospital, Olivia was sitting by Michael's incubator when Nathan arrived. How did it go? She asked, her voice tinged with concern. No jail time, Nathan replied. But I have a lot of community service ahead of me. Olivia nodded, turning her attention back to Michael. He's getting stronger every day, she said softly. Nathan stepped closer, placing a hand on the incubator. Hey, little guy. Dad's here. Over the next few weeks, Nathan split his time between the hospital and his community service. He was assigned to work with a program that taught entrepreneurship skills to at-risk youth in low-income neighborhoods. At first, Nathan felt out of place. These kids saw him as just another rich guy forced to be there. But as he began sharing his knowledge of business and finance, he saw a spark of interest in their eyes. One day, a teenager named Jamal approached him after class. Mr. Caldwell, I got this idea for a business, but I don't know how to start. Can you help me? Nathan spent the next hour going over Jamal's business plan, offering suggestions and encouragement. As he left that day, he felt a sense of satisfaction he'd never experienced in his corporate dealings. Back at the hospital, Nathan shared his experiences with Olivia. These kids, they have so much potential, he said. They just need someone to believe in them. Olivia watched him, a small smile on her face. You're different, she observed. This work, it's changing you. Nathan nodded. I think it is. For the better, I hope. As the days passed, Nathan and Olivia fell into a routine. They'd spend mornings with Michael, talking to doctors and watching their son grow stronger. In the afternoons, Nathan would go to his community service while Olivia rested. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. Olivia saw the genuine change in Nathan, his growing compassion and humility. But years of hurt and betrayal were not easily forgotten. One evening, as they sat by Michael's crib, he'd finally been moved out of the NICU, Olivia turned to Nathan. I want to forgive you, she said softly. But I'm scared. Nathan took her hand gently. I know I hurt you, Olivia. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me. But I understand if you can't forgive me. Olivia squeezed his hand. I'm trying, Nathan. Just be patient with me. As Michael grew stronger, Nathan and Olivia's relationship slowly healed. They weren't back together, not officially, but they were co-parenting and rebuilding trust day by day. Then, one afternoon, Olivia received an unexpected call. It was Sarah from LeBlanc. Olivia, I've been thinking, Sarah said. When you're ready to come back to work, how would you feel about running our new pastry program?